All right, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I am your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I've got a very good friend all the way back from when I lived in Rochester. This is Reverend Sam. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mel. I'm glad to be here.
I don't know if you know, but Christine and I have moved out to the desert, so I'm speaking to you from Palmdale, California. Where are you speaking to us from?
I am speaking to you from the north coast of New York State, which is Rochester, New York.
So everybody knows about what you do. I'm going to take part of your website here where you say, I'm a freelance designer specializing in web design, visual design, video, and product photography. I'm passionate about bringing ideas to life with creative solutions that connect with your audience. Let's collaborate on your next project. I really like that. And I got to say, good God, your website is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That's new as of last year. Some people are self-employed and some people have self-employment thrust upon them.
Yeah.
And I had self-employment thrust upon me, and I didn't have a portfolio site, so I had to throw one together.
Yeah.
So that's what I came up with.
I know your predicament all too well. You not only do all this stuff, but I know you as a musician. You're one of my favorite bass players, and way back in the day, in the 90s.
Right.
We played together quite a bit. I was going
for
by
years.
Yeah, for years. Going under the name Malcolm the Vampire, and it was you, me, and Alex Kelley, and we had a lot of fun creating music and playing shows, right?
Yeah. It's a great band. Loved that band.
And
we played at the Bug Jar one time, and afterwards someone came up to me and said, "Hey, I'd never seen you before, but you guys are really great." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice, thank you." And then they said, "You really remind me of like a Frank Zappa sort of band." And I thought that was just like the greatest compliment I ever heard someone say about us.
Wow, I didn't know that. That kind of makes my day.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Zappa fan. We were both in Where is the Chesterfield King, a great movie the Chesterfield Kings made in 2001. And tell everybody, what did you have to do with that?
Well, I was brought in kind of late in the game to direct it. So that the plot of the movie is their drummer gets taken out by an alien who wants to sit in with the Kings on a national television show and take over the minds of millions of American youth.
Yes,
that's the plot. Do you understand? Yes, I understand.
Yes, I understand.
And so they had shot all of this footage when they were on tour without their drummer. They made their drummer shoot it. They knew they were going to replace him eventually. And so then eventually they replaced him. And then they had a few hours worth of footage shot in all over, like Hawaii and Spain and stuff like that. And they had a 26-page script, and people might know that it's generally a page a minute.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a huge script. There was a lot of improvising on set, but they didn't really know how to put a movie together. And I had just started that. I had just made a short video. My first short video was called Forever Lasted Only 2 Weeks. And it was picked for Rochester's Image Out Film Festival, which is our LGBTQIA film festival.
Yeah, big deal there in Rochester.
Yeah, it was a big deal. My first short to get picked. I was pretty honored with that. And then I showed it to you, and you showed it to the Kings, and then they asked me to come over one night, and you weren't there. The first night I went, you weren't there, and they just looked at me like, "Well, what do we do?" And then I just said, "Well, let's take a look at the script." And I was like, "Well, you could come in through that door, and you could do this line here and this and that." And so now I'm directing this full length movie. It turned out to be like 70 minutes. So there's a feature length. It had 4 music videos in it, I believe. I had been shooting music videos for little money, so I had a concept of how to do it. And then the great thing in that was that Mark Lindsay, who was the singer for Paul Revere and the Raiders, he lived in Hawaii, but he was a friend of the Kings, and they did a song with him, Where Do We Go From Here?
Yep.
And he flew in from Hawaii to shoot that video. And it was a big thing because I needed a camera that was broadcast quality, and at that time I didn't own one, and the one I wanted was called the Canon XL1, and it was $4,400 from this place in Texas. And my car got stolen, and I got a check for the car being stolen, and that was how I bought the camera.
I didn't know that.
And then
wow.
Yes, yeah, like the last day I possibly could have gotten the money, I got it, and then sent the check to via UPS overnight to this place in Texas that had the lowest cost on an XL1 in the country. And they had sold it out from under me, but then they said, well, this guy we sold it to probably doesn't need it for a couple of weeks, so we'll send it to you now that you've paid us. And there's a confluence of events that worked out so that I could shoot that. And eventually it was shown on CNN, that particular video.
Wow. I remember the one
Yeah.
night we were filming in, I think it was like a hairdresser shop to the left of the House of Guitars. And
Okay.
the woman that was supposed to play the person at the desk there didn't show up. And so Andy was like,
Right.
hey, Malcolm, get your wife over here. And I was like, it's really late. She's going to be
That's,
pretty angry if we
yeah.
wake her up. And he goes, that's great. We need her to be angry.
Yeah. Andy Babiuk is very good at getting what he wants.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
talking you into doing what he wants you to do. He's very good at it. He's a good
Yeah.
he's a good band manager.
Yeah, he's a good visionary. And in fact, I think today I was
Absolutely.
just talking to Mike, the drummer. They just got back from a big tour in Europe. So they're still doing really
Yep.
well.
A guy I used to work with, actually, he got hired for he's a guitarist slash keyboard. He's the keyboard player in the band.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
And
they played here a few months ago and I went. So I saw them. They sound as good as ever. Yeah.
right, yeah. But Johnny was like not a keyboard player, and Andy said, "Hey, you got to play keyboards." And he said, "I don't know how to play keyboards." He said, "You'll figure it out," and he did.
It sounds like Andy. And then who was your character in the movie so everybody knows? I remember you being very angry,
sure.
very angry character.
I am the director of the TV show the national TV show that they planned, which we shot in Geva Theatre, which is a big theater in Rochester.
Yeah.
And we got to run of the place for like a couple of nights. It was really great. They were really, really nice to us. But I played the director, Baron von something. And, it was based on some angry character I saw at some point. Baron von Eisenstropher. That was it. That's what I said.
That rolls off the tongue. Yeah, that was good. You did a great performance. I remember trying not to laugh. It was so good.
It was great. You made the show as well. I mean, like you brought a range to that part that I don't think they envisioned.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but we did it, right?
But we did it. That was my first full-length feature, and it premiered at the George Eastman House for Museum and Film. So that was,
yeah.
Not many people can say they've had their movie play there, let alone like it premiered there, and we had an event, and like there was food after and stuff. So it was like a big opening.
Yeah, Rochester's pretty cool place, between Eastman and Xerox and all these historical things that happen. It's a great place. I was really happy to grow up there. Definitely cool music scene and everything.
Yeah, it's very the arts and music scene here, I think, is pretty good for like a small town, for sure.
Absolutely, and because of Eastman School of Music, I met a lot of my future friends like Steve Gadd and Tony Levin, Chuck Mangione, all these guys. Yeah. So many good people came through there. I never asked you this before. Who are a few of your favorite bass players? Who inspired you when you were younger?
That's a great question. I'll tell you my two biggest influences when I was starting out were Chris Squire.
Wow.
And Steve Harris, I think his name is, the guy from Iron Maiden.
Definitely Chris Squire with the whole Rickenbacker sound. That makes sense, knowing you're playing. Yeah. I can see that. What did you get from the guy in Iron Maiden?
A lot of triplets. Just like it's just the so like the issue was I was a guitar player, and then like I had bass playing kind of thrust upon me. I had a friend who had a band, and he said, "Hey, we're looking for a bass player," and I was like, "Okay, well, it'll be easier. It's less strings, right?" So
yeah,
and that's how I joined The Living, which was like my large band for a long time. We were a seminal Rochester cowpunk band.
Yeah, so you guys...
Not many people were doing cowpunk.
You had The Living before I met you, right?
Correct.
Right, and then didn't you help out Scott Coblio, a.k.a. Koo Koo Boy, at the beginning too?
That's true. So The Living was 86 to 91. Okay. Our last show, we opened for Bob Mould. We opened for a lot of like fairly large names in Rochester, and we used to think it was because we were great, and it turned out really it was because we were a three-piece, and the drummer stood, so they could put us in front of like anything. We only took up like a few feet of room.
Yeah.
So we would get these, but a win's a win.
Wow.
We played with,
Go
we
ahead.
opened for Rollins
Wow,
band.
really? That
Like I
must.
think his first tour. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And what venues
Yeah.
did you guys play at? Because I think I can remember most of them.
Well, in Rochester, we played at Idol. We were a monthly, once or twice a month, we would play at Idols, which was the place for what was called college music back then. What would now
Yeah,
be called alternative.
yeah.
And that was just a great place for a local bar. They paid a guarantee, and many nights they didn't make their money back, but it was just a great bar. That was the place we played the most. But we played all the other bars too, like Jazzberries
Yep. I remember that.
now we're going back, coming up on the 40th birthday of the Living next
Wow.
year. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are all still
So
friends and hang out?
yep, we'll talk about that later, but yeah, it's true. I've
Yeah.
I've been playing with Emerson. So Emerson was the singer for The Living, and he was the drummer. And then in 2011, he approached me about he had another cowpunk-ish kind of band, alt country, I guess would be called now, and which is called Mad Cow Tippers. And so we do that. That's like it's a novelty band. So like all of our stuff is funny. They're first-person songs about funny people doing funny things. It's a little not safe for work, but
Keep your
you
volume
know,
down. Yeah. Is this the great video you did called the Corona Queen?
yes, yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. It was we released it right before the election, and then YouTube squashed it, and we got like and it didn't really play that much. But I still am very happy with that video. That was when I started doing more animation. Also, our song "Christmas is Coming in Your Face." Um, that was the first one I started doing like cartoon style animation, which was something I grew up watching and was very influenced by, of course, Warner Brothers cartoons, but also and more so Rocky and Bullwinkle and the Jay Ward cartoons. I
Oh
just
man,
loved
I love
their
those.
I love that animation style, and it's just like not Disney, not anime. It's a very mid-century American sort of thing. I have the Jay Ward art book, and that's when I'm drawing cartoons, that's what I use for my inspiration. I just love that stuff.
Yeah, moose and squirrel, right?
Moose and squirrel.
You're inspired by two things that I also love. Director Terry Gilliam, who early
Of
on in
course.
Monty Python did the cutout paper animation, but also the
Sure. Sure.
1978 animated Lord of the Rings. And when I see your most
Ah,
recent stuff, it
yeah.
really brings me back
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, it's true. When I was working on Torch, that was my vision for it, was I wanted it to look like the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
which is actually pretty heavily rotoscoped, and I didn't have to do that. But that sort of I really liked that feel to it, and that was really what I was trying to bring to it. So good eye.
Yeah, actually, this goes way back to when I was a Boy Scout. I remember we went on a camping trip and they brought Super 8 films, and that's how I saw The Lord of the Rings, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
On Super 8,
yeah,
was there sound?
I believe there
Well,
was. Yeah,
I think Super 8 has the sound. think that's what makes it super. Maybe I'm wrong on
yes,
that.
indeed. Well, let's go into talk about your latest, Torch
Okay.
and Hammer, a 3-minute
Torch and
epic.
Hammer.
Yeah, a 3-minute epic fantasy adventure, which I think came out last year, right? 2024.
Yes. Okay. So this is how it went. So Emerson, longtime partner, singer in The Living, singer in Mad Cow Tippers,
Right.
he's talking to me one day and he says, I got this song and we only do funny songs, and this is like a really serious song.
Right.
So I don't know what to do with it. And I had just done this rather large web project, and I got paid a bunch of money, and I sunk it into Native Instruments setup. So I've got like the 88 key keyboard and the
Yeah.
beat maker and all the software. And so now I have this arsenal of music equipment, and I'm not sure what to do with it. Traditionally, we're like guitar, bass, drums,
Right.
and that's what it is. So like, what could I do with that? And so I started messing around with maybe coming up with horn parts and so on. But so he says to me, I have this song. And I said, well, why don't you sing it into your phone and send me it? And then I'll figure it out and I'll build up stuff around it. And it was a very interesting exercise, and it was cool because it wasn't mine. And so therefore, like I could, I didn't have to be like, I didn't have to treat it delicately.
Right.
Because in the end, he gave me complete control to do whatever I wanted with it.
So you were
And
like
so,
you were like the arranger, so you didn't have to worry about writing the song. You just needed to kind of
right,
make a roadmap and choose the instrumentation.
right. So what I did was, right, and it was easy because on my own song, I might have sat on it for months and months
Right.
before I could even, approach it. Because what if I messed it up? And I didn't care so much. I
Right.
wasn't as emotionally invested in it.
Right.
So, my music skills are mostly like I played the bass, and I had to map out like his melody, and then once I had that, then I started trying to think of what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to start with the basics of music. So in the beginning of music was like some guy hitting a rock against something that made a sound, right? It
Yeah.
was like the first instrument, right? And that's what, when you listen to Torch, that's how it starts out. It starts out with like a tabla and a primitive tambourine.
Right.
And as you listen to it, things start adding to it. Then you have some winds and then some guitar, and then it kind of takes off. Then I'm bringing in giant horn sections
Wait,
and
so were you
like,
I did realize that the music was building up when I watched it several times, but so you're almost telling like the history of musical instruments subliminally,
yeah, well,
right?
yeah, right. Because so like this is the whole idea I had is I'm going to start with basic music instruments, and then at the end, it's like a giant, crescendo of like horns and strings and, like multiple symphony orchestras playing because I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
Because like 3 months before that, I could never have even thought of doing something like that. But now I could, you name an instrument, I probably have one kicking on my hard drive, or I can get one.
Well, you had
You
this
know,
great brand new Native Instruments
yeah,
workstation, which is like today's
right,
version of the Fairlight or the Synclavier. That's pretty cool.
right. Yeah, it's just so incredibly powerful. I could do anything. So then it was just a matter of like, well, what did I want to do? And then I charted it out, and then I did it. And so it ended up being like 80 tracks. And
Wow.
I've really never mixed anything. So I went to Cal, who was the guitar player in the living, and is the sound engineer for Mad Cow Tippers.
And
And
so
I
everybody
said,
knows we're
hey,
talking about Calvin May.
Calvin May, who is, you should have on the podcast at some point.
Definitely will. Yeah. And I worked
He's
with
worked
him
with,
on a lot of projects too. He's one of the best
yeah,
engineers I've ever met.
yeah. So I went to him and I said, hey, geez, I made this thing and I don't know if I can do it. It's just too challenging. And he was like, well, I could do it. And I'm like, oh, do you think you could? You think take this 80 tracks off my fucking hand? You take these 80 tracks off my hands? And he said, yeah. And then a year later, he was done.
Yeah.
It took a while because it was, very far outside of like his realm of expertise. And probably the largest thing he'd done would have been like a band with like a horn section. And so it took him a while to like get to it. And then while I was waiting, I said, well, it would be kind of interesting. Now that I've done this, and I have no idea how long this is going to, it eventually took like a year. But at the time I didn't know that. So I started sketching out like just stick figures of what I thought the song would be.
Like a storyboard type of thing.
Like an animated storyboard. And that took 2.5 weeks. And then when I was done with that, I said, well, that looks great. I mean, like, how long could it really take to make after I already did? I already animated these stick figures in After Effects. So I had a pretty good idea, like, how things were timed and how it would work.
Right.
And all I need to do really is just generate the artwork in Midjourney, which is just an AI illustration program.
Right.
So knowing that Midjourney was getting better even as I was using it, it was at version 3 at that point, I started just doing the backgrounds in it. And I made the backgrounds for the whole thing. And that took like 7 months. Some of them, as you're watching it, you might see a lot of like parallax effects. And the way that those are pulled off is by making an image and then cutting it apart and putting things at like different, fake layer depths in After Effects. And that took just a really long time. Like there's a scene like right in the middle where they traverse like left to right, and the background took probably 4 or 5 weeks to just to cut up, and make and add the depth to it.
It's nice though
It's a great
because
shot.
when I
It's great.
well, first of all, I don't know if you know, but our younger son Caleb went to school to do video games, and so I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of stuff he does with Unreal Engine, and I'm very familiar with that look.
Right,
But
right.
yours made me think of like watching a Broadway play, and when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, this
Yeah.
looks unique immediately." So tell me once again, what are the different techniques that you used in software?
Okay, so basically all the illustration was done in Midjourney. Like after 7 months of creating the backgrounds, Midjourney got better at creating the characters. Up until about a week before I started doing it, when I started making the hero character,
Yeah.
which is the hero of the movie, which is based on Emerson sings it, so I made it look like him. And so I took old photos of him from like when he was a kid.
Wait, so is this
'Cause all
the narrator that's in the left bottom corner of the video?
Yes, yeah. So what happens? So the story is it's about the bond between a father and a son, and the person narrating in the corner is the father, and you see he eventually ages into the wizard that shows up
Yeah, it's
like
so
3/4 of the way
that's
through.
like one of my favorite things, and it's so subtle. The first time I watched the video,
Right,
I didn't think about it because there's so much going on. But today I watched it a couple
right.
times, and it's so smooth how you did the aging. That was really beautiful.
Th- Thank you, thank you. But there was like I was doing like that kind of thing only became available to me to use about a week before I started. I had to make it to keep on a schedule.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing with even like one of the biggest problems there is in doing AI filmmaking or animated AI is having a consistent character look.
Yeah.
And that only got solved. I had started work on it, I think, on June 1st in 23, and consistent characters were only available to me in February of 24. And I wanted to release it in September of 24. So it was, it was a big challenge,
That's
and
crazy.
then it became available. I was using things just as they would be put up and say, hey, we have a new feature in our AI programs. I would jump on it and say, oh, I was looking for that.
Yeah.
I needed that. Like
Wow.
that at the end, how there's a zoom in to the hammer when it falls,
Right,
and
right.
that so to do that, that was a special thing where like I had to make an image and then kind of pull it out to to make it a 3D scene that you could actually fly a camera through and
Right.
have it look like that.
Yeah, I did notice that. And not to keep going back to Brazil, but it's my favorite movie. And
Sure.
one thing I like about your video, it's like when I watch Brazil. I must have seen that movie 50 times, but every time I see it, I see something else. And there's just so
It's
much going on with your
yeah.
video. It's incredible. And you can't get it all with one listen or one watch.
Yeah, I mean, like you could. I released the music like about a month before I released the video. In fact, I haven't released the video yet because there's certain film festivals that if you let it be available publicly on YouTube, then you're out of the running.
Gotcha.
So I haven't. So so you're still seeing like the screener. But it isn't.
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping probably by the end of the summer I'm gonna put it up on YouTube and I'll have it on the website. Because I by the end of the summer it's gonna have gone through every film festival that would have cared.
Now, did I read somewhere that you've already been nominated for some awards?
When it came out for my father's birthday because I made it for my father, which is September 27th. And that happens to be a really sweet spot to start entering film festivals because a lot of film festivals happen around like Halloween.
Yeah.
So I started sending it out. And so the first thing that happened is it was chosen for the Cinetech Film Fest, which was in Poland, and it won Best Animation.
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
Cinetech was Cinetech was an AI film festival, and I mean it was AI generated. All the artwork's AI generated, um, except for the bird and the hammer. Actually,
Yeah.
the bird and the hammer are both video game assets that I put in a 3D program and then composite them with the rest of the animation.
Yeah, they really pop. They're cool.
Yeah, thank you. After Cinetech, the Alt Film Festival, which is in Toronto, I got a Best Animation USA in the super short category,
Whoa.
the under 5 minute category. And Couch FF, which is a similar festival run by people who know Alt FF. It's kind of like a community up in there. I won Best Animation USA for
Wow.
that as well.
When your video goes to these festivals, do you go to the festivals too?
No, I didn't. Well, the thing is like, okay, so the first one was in Poland, so no. And then the next two were in Toronto. So that was a possibility, but both of them, it didn't screen. It
Yeah.
was like selected and it won an award, but they had so many films like it wasn't going to be shown. And then I thought I was pretty happy. I was like, well, I got I got in 3 film festivals, and that's, for coming out of nowhere. Like my
Right.
last movie came out in '07,
Right.
and no one would know about that.
Schwag.
But then Schwag the movie, and so like then I placed in this one in Italy called Monza. Got an honorable mention for best animation.
Wow.
I've been picked for the Belgrade Film Festival, which got pushed back. It's now late this year.
Wow.
And then recently Austin Microfilm Festival, and the guy who does the festival gave me uh, reviewed it on his podcast, and like a 45-second review of it. And it's nice. It's really cool thing. And I just got back from Pittsburgh 2 Fridays ago. I was in Pittsburgh getting my award for official selection.
Wow. Now, have
So
you been able to personally see your video on the big movie screen at all?
I have not. I could have done it in Pittsburgh, but I went there. The opening ceremony was Friday night, and then my movie was playing Sunday at 10 a.m., which would require 2 nights staying over in Pittsburgh, and
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time, so I didn't. I'm hoping the next one is in Buffalo. It's a genre, which means fantasy, sci-fi, horror festival, and that's in Buffalo
Right.
in the end of September, and I'm hoping that I get that one. I think it gets easier the more you win. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got like 8 awards,
Wow.
So like,
That's incredible.
coming out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
got so a couple more I'm looking forward to. The New York Animation Awards are coming up in a couple of months, and I'm hoping that with these many wins under my belt, that might happen for me. That would
Yeah.
be a good one.
And please let me know if it's shown in Los Angeles. I'll definitely be there for that.
Sure, sure. But it was a really great experience. It took about 13 and a half months to make the thing, and I was working like 15 hours a week, about 700 hours, all told. That just on the video, and then I don't know how long I spent on the music. I think it was like 2.5 months on the music off and on. I wasn't as steadfast as that, but like doing Torch, like lots of things happen. I lost a cat during that
Oh,
time. Like I lost my
sorry to
job at
hear
one
that.
point. Yeah. But life just happens, and I had to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like creativity is almost nothing without persistence.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Or that was a something to be overcome. Is to like, and I had people saying to me, well, I just take some time off. It's like I just can't. I just I wanted it to be done too. I
Yeah.
wanted to move on with my life
Right. And I'm
after
sure on
after
some
that much
level
time.
it was helping you. It was escape, but also
Sure.
feeling good about creating
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And everything is like, well, how do I make a plasma ball? And then I'd have to go find a couple tutorials and like spend a couple days like figuring out how to make the best plasma ball I could make,
Yeah.
things like that.
How many people ask themselves that question every day?
Right.
First of all, well, this is kind of a comment. As a drummer, I really like how you mix the drums. I've watched your video
Well,
probably 9 or 10 times, and I think it's like halfway through, there's like this tribal thing, and I love how it's kind of mixed in the background. I mean, the overall
that's
mix.
all Cal.
Yeah,
That's all Cal.
He makes me
Cal,
think. I heard
yeah.
the story about Tchad Blake, this amazing engineer who is often called in to mix Peter Gabriel's albums. And I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard, but he often has way more tracks than that. And
Sure.
I
Sure.
feel
Sure.
that Cal really is, a sonic alchemist. Somehow
Yes.
he mixed
Yeah.
that in a way that it doesn't sound overcomplicated and overbearing. And I love the different levels of just the drums and the percussion?
He came, well, I mean, I had something in there, and I had something, it was sort of like, one of my instruments is drum set, this industrial drum set. What's his name? He's the guy who produced Nirvana, or is credited with
Butch Vig.
That's it. So Butch Vig has a set of drums and native instruments, and they're very heavy processed 80s sounding drums, and I used them because I thought it was interesting. And then Cal said, I could do this better. And I said, knock yourself out. And that's what he did. He did those drum parts, and he made the drum parts, better than I could do them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really cool.
But all the other stuff I did. All the other stuff I did.
No, I mean,
it's even live guitar.
Oh, I didn't know.
Just the rhythm parts.
One thing I was curious about is it's a very complicated story. And after I'd watched it a few times, I was like, did Sam get all these ideas from just the lyrics? Because although the lyrics are very good, they're kind of simple. So how did you elaborate from these simple lyrics to such a complex story?
Okay, so it's a good question. So I've been trying to write better stories, and I've been a writer since I was a kid, but like not like putting effort into like, how is storytelling done? What is it, how are narrative structures used? And I was always kind of like a right by the seat of my pants kind of author, where I don't know where it's going. And, if you don't know where you're going, then you don't get there sometimes. Yeah. So with this, I wanted to start with like a very simple story. So it's a hero's journey, right. It's obviously the hero's journey. And I was using a method called Save the Cat, which maybe someone out there who listens to you is their script writing and all like that. They ought to look into it.
Yeah.
And then I just said, okay, at these plot points, what am I going to have? The biggest problem I had was I needed the bird to grow giant so that the hero could ride him.
Right.
And so that's when I came up, and that was like the biggest thing, is coming up with how that occurs, and that whole set piece of like letting fear out of the cage, and he knocks over the berries, and the berries are magic, and the bird eats them.
Right.
It's kind of a Deus Ex Machina, sort of thing. But like, if you don't overuse that kind of thing, it can work out. And it's a fantasy story, right? So like, the bird eats magic berries, and that's how he gets big.
Yeah.
Like I beat myself up for like a week trying to figure out how to make the bird big, and I was like, well, I'll just have him eat magic berries, and it's a fantasy story. What are people going to say?
Right. What is the acronym KISS? Keep it simple, stupid.
KISS. Right.
The other thing it made me think of, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm a big fan of the Predator movies, and there's a new animated one called Killer of Killers, which I really love. But the reason why I bring it up, it almost looks like moving paintings. And I don't know what kind of software they use with that, but I thought of that with your video too. And I liked how not only moving paintings, but maybe it was like when the raven was growing, it's like it fades and then reappears, and it's almost like slides or something. It was very unique and beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of it was, a lot of it I came up with in the initial storyboarding, but then like now it's starting to look like a realistic raven and not just like a stick figure. Like, well, how am I going to do this, and how am I going to do that? And like, some of it's fudged, some of it I'm just like, well, I'll just do this and see how it works out. And most times my ideas were like pretty cool. There were a couple things I changed very after the fact that I was like, well, this would work better if I did this. But like shot for shot, it's really very similar to, it's almost exactly the same as the animatic.
Right. And so for people out here listening to this that can't see it yet, when do you hope that it will be available for the public? And also when it is, will it be on YouTube?
Yeah. It'll be on YouTube. I'm thinking the end of September. I'd probably say, I think September 27th, the anniversary of its completion. It'll probably be available to watch at torchandhammer.com.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was going to ask what the website would be. All right, excellent. And you did send me a link. I don't know if it was private or public, but can they go to the Torch and Hammer website yet or no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can read all about it there, and
cool.
And you can actually watch the animatics and how I did it. I have a bunch of like in process videos, and I talk in depth about the story and the symbolism, anything you want to know, the people who worked on it and how blah blah blah. Anything you'd ever want to know about the movie is on the website.
Let's go way back in time. I would like to know,
Okay.
what is your first creative memory?
I'll tell you the first thing I can remember. I was really into Star Trek when I was a kid, and like many kids, it was, and I'm old enough that it was the original series.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not old enough that I was watching it in syndication though. I'm not that old, but I be clear about it. It was on during the day. It wasn't at night.
Yeah, you're not old enough for the original black and white Doctor Who's. All right, so after
No,
that, right?
but I was just so into it that I made a book. It was like this. It was like a Starfleet manual for like cadets.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and just drawings of phasers and stuff. I'm not saying it was good, but if you want to talk about the first thing, that's the first thing I remember doing is I made like this little book out of my mom's steno pad that
Yeah.
was all about Star Trek and what I thought it would be like to what I thought the handbook would be for cadet.
In case anybody needed it. And were your parents or friends or family receptive to this first creative work?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think I stayed summers with my grandparents, so they saw it and they probably thought it was pretty amazing because it's a kind of a weird thing that for like a kid to do.
How old do you think you were?
But I don't remember. I would have been like 8 or 9.
Okay.
So I used to draw pictures a lot. I used to love, at that point we only had 3 channels, and on one of the channels on Saturdays they would have monster movies, and I loved monster movies, giant, what we call kaiju now. But I used to draw like stuff like that.
Wow. What were a couple of the monster movies you liked? I loved all the fake early Godzilla movies. Those were my favorite.
Favorite monster movie all time, Destroy All Monsters.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because they're all in there.
Yep.
All the stars are in there. They're all on one island. And then other than that,
I just got
Smog
to tell
Monster.
you, I actually have that on DVD right in front of me right now. I love that movie.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
And then Smog Monster. I forget what its name is, but there was one. It's after Destroy All Monsters was the Smog Monster, and it's one of those kaiju Tokyo films.
Yeah.
It's real. I think it starts in a psychedelic club, like a go-go club, and the opening credits are all like those oil lights, with that you mash them together and they make blotchy.
Almost like melting wax type of thing.
Yep. Yeah. In Rochester, we used to have a theater called the Revere Theatre, and at night it was an adult theater, but like on Saturdays and Sundays they ran monster movies as matinees.
A little bit for everybody.
I saw King Kong there like many, many times. Yeah, that was one of my favorite. I think one of my first favorite movies was King Kong, the 33 one.
Oh, the old one, yeah.
So when I was 12, then I started going to the cinema in Greece. It was called the Cine 8, and they did Rocky Horror there. And my mother would like drop me off at midnight on a Saturday, and I was like 12, and I would go to Rocky Horror by myself. I didn't know anybody or anything, and I just went and I did it, and then she would pick me up. So that's pretty supportive, really. I don't think she'd do that now.
Yeah, no, a lot of things they did when we were younger. When you went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, at that point, did they already have people dressing up like characters and singing along?
Oh, yeah.
So the whole thing. Who did you dress up as?
Well, I didn't dress up because I was a 12-year-old boy, and it probably would have been illegal for me to dress in any of those.
Oh, I thought you were going to go for like Frankenfurter, but yeah, alas.
I would have loved to because he's the anti-hero, but like I was lucky I could get my mom. I was lucky my mom didn't ask what the fucking movie was about. Really.
Oh yeah.
That she was dropping me off, and I read an interview with Richard O'Brien who said that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is obviously like the first trans rock and roll musical," and I was like, "Oh, I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't know what else would be, now it's Hedvig, but like,
Yeah, what was the other
there's
one with Paul Williams though?
Phantom
Yes.
of the Paradise.
Yeah.
I have that. I never watched it. I have it, but I haven't watched it.
All right.
I have a
Let's
lot of,
both
I
watch it
have a,
and next time we'll do a review.
sure, sure. Yeah. It's on a drive that's hooked up to a TV, and I have like 5,000 movies that I collected that are on collected through not legal means, and
Things have changed over the
but
years.
it's in there.
Yeah.
I have more movies than time.
Yeah, well, I was just talking to a friend the other day. I remember back in the day, this is only maybe 80s and 90s, where we had to buy bootlegs. If I wanted to hear like
Right.
David Bowie doing a show in Germany, I had to go pay
Yep.
like $50 for a CD or something
Yeah.
at Lakeshore Record
Right.
Exchange. And now I have all these
Yep.
things, and I'm like, they're all on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Everything's
God
on
damn
everything's
it.
on YouTube. Yeah.
Um,
You didn't know that at the time,
of course.
and you wanted to listen to it then, and
Yeah.
you wanted to listen to it then. So
So, when you were growing up, were your parents creative? And do you ever find yourself as you get older going, oh, that's pretty cool. I bet I got that from my mom or I got that from my dad?
I'm going to say no. They
Really?
really weren't. My mother, no, I imagine they must have been halfway smart or clever because they had me, but like my mom like would make crafty stuff, like paint wooden ducks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nothing really. When I was a kid, I did like plastic models, like the Universal Monsters, Frankenstein, and all that stuff. I used to make those models. That was how it was like another one of like the first artistic things I did.
Yeah. That was a big thing back then.
Yeah, I had a ton of them. I probably had a dozen of those kits that I put together poorly because I was a child.
Well, Christine and I, Christine and I recently have been watching a lot of the original horror movies we grew up with, and we watched the original Salem's Lot, which I think late 70s.
Oh,
early 80s.
that's scary.
It's crazier than I remember, and now I remember why like I couldn't sleep at night when the guy's like scratching on the window.
Yes.
But I'm bringing this up
absolutely.
because they had all those models that you're talking about. They had all the monster models.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, it was way creepier. I mean, like I've gone back and watched Cujo, and it's just really dumb. But this one,
Yeah,
was pretty well
I never
done.
saw Cujo.
Yeah.
No, Salem's Lot. Yeah, I remember it was a TV movie and it came out in like 2 parts. So it was like 2 nights. My mom and I watched, and I had problems freaking sleeping afterwards. It was so freaky.
Yeah, I remember
So
like
frightening.
pulling the shades down my window because I thought that kid in the hospital was going to come start scratching on the window. What about your dad? Was he creative?
Nope, not at all.
Not at all, huh?
He's a dancer. No, dancing runs in the male side of my family. That's the weird thing. My grandfather loved to go out dancing. My dad is actually a really decent dancer for something he doesn't do. Like that, I never saw him practice anything, but he had a really, really good rhythm and so on. So, but no one anywhere in any of my family does anything creative.
Dancing takes a lot of rhythm, so maybe you got some of your musical talents from him. Because you're definitely a rhythmic guy.
Yeah.
Great bass player.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I loved playing with you. It was great because the living was all the songs were and parts were written with by Cal. So I didn't have like a lot of leeway, and then coming into the Malcolm the Vampire sessions, I could do anything I wanted.
Oh yeah, and that's what we wanted.
All kinds of, and yeah. We had Mohair at the Insect Salon. That was one of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah. All right, we're gonna have to redo that one. Alex keeps asking me to put all the old cassettes on YouTube, so that's something I'm thinking about doing.
That'd be cool. We did that concept album, The Sphere of Density.
I forgot about that. Wow.
I still have the CD to that. If you need me to send it over to you.
All right. You and I are gonna have to go into the vault and bring everything back. And then we did what was the EP we did that with the Interloper on it?
Yeah, that was at Studio 7, and I thought it was called the Interloper.
Yeah.
But that was like Interloper, Fishing Can,
Yeah.
Evil Love Skin.
Oh, that was a great song.
One other one.
Another one,
Yeah.
and I remember that was the first time. This was Cal's idea. We put the vocals through a Leslie speaker. I found out later that was like a thing that a
Oh,
lot of people did, but that was a lot of fun.
that was I still love Fishing Can. I think it's in my SoundCloud. That's something I'm very proud of the bass line in that. I think it's pretty great.
Yeah, the bass
So
line was really good in that. So here's a really serious question. Do you think creativity could be implemented in curing people or at least helping people with mental health struggles such as depression or anxiety? Any insight into that?
sure. Well, I used to know a therapist, and they worked on what they called a story, like a story sort of basis. Like if you could write your story different, how would you write it?
Yeah.
And
Oh, your own personal story, your life.
right,
Wow.
right. How would
That's
you?
cool.
And that was so that's a technique, and she didn't invent the technique. I'm sure it's something that is. But if you want to talk about creativity, yeah, you could write your own story.
Interesting. I mean, that's kind of like manifesting backwards. That's interesting. Uh,
Right. I
wow.
mean, like any sort of magic is will over reality, right?
Right.
Imposing your will over reality. Writing, saying like this is my story. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be upset if someone calls me baldy,
Right.
let's say, or something like that.
Right.
You know, that's how creativity, I think, could help people with who are stuck.
Yeah.
They're stuck in a rut. They've tried everything and they can't think of anything about how to make anything different. What if what if you could approach it, with the distance of it being a character?
Yeah.
Now it's not you, you're talking about a character, but has similar circumstances and maybe going through a similar thing. But how could they do it? If like anything was open, like you're writing something. So aliens come down and shoot your stepfather,
Yeah.
whatever monkey paw thing you might need uh, to make happen.
Great Laurie Anderson song too.
That's
Monkey's Paw.
Love Laurie Anderson.
That's interesting what you're saying. I was just talking to a good friend about he's a tarot card reader about speaking things into existence. And
Right,
you can do that in your present life. You can do that in your what you want for the future. I think there's many
right.
truths to that. But you're really making me think of David Bowie, one of my favorite singers. I was
Hmm.
just talking on another episode with my friend Leah Cardos, who wrote this beautiful book about Black Star, his last album. And
Okay.
we got deep into the fact that if you really know about David Bowie, there was a lot of mental illness in his family. In fact, his brother committed suicide. And
I did not know that.
yeah, there's a great song called Jump, where it's all about his brother and losing his brother. But he grew up in a family that mental illness was quite prominent. And I don't think he did this on purpose, but at least subconsciously, he's the first guy that he said, I don't want to just sing a song. I want to create a character, live in that character, and sing from that point of view. And he went on, obviously,
Right,
to do this with Halloween Jack, Thin White Duke, Ziggy Stardust. He didn't
right,
actually come out of that
right,
until like the 80s. And I think that's
right.
really incredible survival mechanism. He could have, I'm just throwing this out there, but somebody like that could
Sure.
end up having multiple personalities. But he found a creative way to control it and actually share all that talent with the world, too. What are your thoughts on that type of thing?
Uh, I mean, Bowie was someone who was constantly reinventing themselves,
Yeah.
and that seems to be like if you want to have a career as a performer, you have to keep it interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, like Weird Al just reinvented himself, or reinvented his look, anyways, which is fine. And you don't even think about it because it works so well with his character and who he is. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a change of pace than where it was. Um, Marilyn Manson, I mean, he used to change. He used to steal from different artists every album, so every album was different,
Yeah.
depending on who he was stealing from that particular album.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think it's hard when you're an artist, too, because there's a fear. if you change your formula, that the record company won't support you because they want you to keep doing the same thing. Obviously, this is kind of an archaic idea, but you know what I mean. There is a little bit of fear of being yourself and having the confidence to change.
That's true, but also comes from fans. What I've heard about the process is like you spend your whole life getting your first album written, right? And then you have generally 7 months to write your second album while you're touring.
Right.
And you've already used all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So now you got like that's why second albums kind of suck. And the thing is like usually your first album, it's a little like loosey goosey. Not everything is super well defined.
Yeah.
So like your fans might think you're going in some direction and then you go in a different one and then they don't like it.
Right.
And nobody wants to lose their fans. It's so hard to get anybody to care about your music.
Yeah, true. I mean, even these days, like Billie Eilish went from like wearing baggy rapper clothes to the next album dressing very feminine, very stereotypical 1950s woman, so.
Well, the reason for that is because she was sick of being objectified.
Right. Yeah. My younger son has told me all about that. And that's actually a pretty cool approach.
I mean, it's a cool approach. It's just sad that she had to do it. That like, a 16-year-old girl has to dress in baggy clothes because otherwise she's going to get so many comments from creeps.
Yeah.
It's just, it's.
She's brilliant. I mean, there's somebody at a very early age. Yeah, her and Phineas, just brilliant.
So Grant Morrison is a name I'm going to drop. You're probably familiar with him, but if you want to talk about, speaking will to power, that's the guy.
Really? I haven't heard about him. Tell me a little bit about him.
Grant Morrison he's a comic writer and he's a chaos magician. And I forget which book he was working on, but he was working on a book about a guy who accidentally gets into magic and magic starts influencing his life. And while he was writing it, magic started influencing his life. And things that he was writing in the story started becoming true in his own life. And he realized that he's not the guy who invented chaos magic, but he certainly popularized it a lot.
Yeah.
With the idea that maybe you don't need to do giant intricate rituals, but you really just need to work on making sigils and finding ways of focusing your will.
Right. Is he a contemporary writer?
Yeah, he's still alive.
Oh, cool. Definitely somebody I want to check out. Well, that actually leads into my next question. You and I have always been both inspired by the controversial figure Aleister Crowley. In fact, I was remembering today, are the one that helped me get my first tattoo, which is the 7-sided star.
Yeah, I have one as well.
Ooh, interesting. At one time, Aleister said this: "Every man and every woman is a star." This quote, also from the Book of the Law, suggests that each individual is unique and possesses inherent worth and potential. It can be interpreted as a call for self-discovery and self-realization. What are your thoughts on that idea?
Well, when I was growing up, I read a lot of Robert Anton Wilson, and although I'm a fan of Aleister Crowley, I can't say that I've actually read very much of his work by his own hand. I've mostly read people writing about him. When I was a younger man, I was really into Robert Anton Wilson. I was a philosopher who really looked up to Crowley, and that was really my introduction to Crowley. I got Liber 4, and I wanted to work through it and maybe get into ritual magic, and then there's so many like traps that Crowley built into his spells that if you didn't know what you're doing, like say your protection circle wouldn't be working, right, and you wouldn't know it,
right,
and then and that's going to teach you a lesson. And I decided I didn't want to learn lessons like that, so it was more like reading other people discussing Crowley. And the Book of the Law is real problematic for me. I love book 1, but like book 2 is getting kind of frightening as it gets really into like the male energy,
right,
and it's somewhat violent. And the third book it's just terrifying of like unleashing of what's going to come through and be unleashed upon man. But the first book I like a lot, and I like the idea, and like I said, I read a lot of Wilson, and Wilson liked would talk about book one all the time, but he wouldn't talk about the other couple of books, or they're not really discussed that much. So like the idea of like personal growth and like personal, there's power, that, we're all made of stardust, everybody's made of carbon that has been through a star.
Right.
And that's kind of interesting. That's, it opens the possibilities. And so that out of the Book of the Law, if I'm ever going to read any of it, I'm only going to read the first book, because it gets kind of frightening after that.
Yeah. Do you think there's an issue when you delve into Aleister's work that it's hard to decipher his true intent?
Yes, because I don't know if he knows half the time. I mean, like, for being a guy who could concentrate and, and be able to like do multiple games of chess blindfolded.
Yeah.
His life is kind of all over the place.
That's true.
And
it was quite chaotic.
Constantly. And I don't know if it was part of his process or just some, he could be a chess grandmaster, or he could be a drug addict.
Right.
And
that's
points.
often the big argument about him.
Right.
Did he really know what he's doing, or was he just messed up on drugs?
Right.
But that time in history is really fascinating, because around the same time you had people like Gurdjieff, you had the arts and crafts movement, you had the Bauhaus movement. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on at that time in history all over the world. So it's and I don't feel like that time in history has had enough light shed upon it. Well, before we go, I'd like to help you promote whatever you're working on. So first of all, we know about the movie Torch, right?
Torch and Hammer, yeah. So that's the two things I would want to tell people about. Is I would want to say torchandhammer.com is the website for Torch and Hammer, which is my newest thing. But the Chesterfield Kings movie is not available online. I don't think it's even on YouTube, because Sundays still owns the rights for it, and I don't think they're going to give them up anytime.
Okay.
But Schwag the movie is available on the YouTube, and the website is schwagthemovie.com, SCHWAGTHEMOVIE.
And that's from 2007, right?
That came out in 2007. Yeah, I played at the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, and I played at Burning Man. So it got around. I played in Rochester, of course.
Yeah.
But that was my magnum opus. It was so what happened was, like, the Kings movie came out, and the drummer Mike was like, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, "Well, I have this idea." What had happened was, I had a friend named Simon, and he had come to me and said, marijuana grows free by the side of the road in Ronald Reagan's hometown, Dixon, Illinois. And if we went there, we could just like get a whole bunch. And I said, well, that sounds like a great plan. And we were going to shoot it as a documentary, but then it didn't. But then I ended up shooting it as a narrative instead, because it was kind of dangerous what happened. But the movie premiered 7 years to the day after the original event, so I couldn't be held liable for anything, or I couldn't be arrested for anything, because the statute of limitations ran out. But if anyone hears this podcast and wants to check out a full-length movie about why pot should be legal that was shot in Rochester and the birthplace of Ronald Reagan, I encourage you to check out my second full-length movie.
Yeah, for sure. Now, if people want to follow you on your daily things that you're up to, what social media are you on these days? You're on Facebook and Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, on Facebook, I'm REV_SAMUEL. And there's a picture of me at Burning Man. So like, that's not any of the other Reverend Samuels, because there's more than one. I used to work at a place that there was another Reverend Sam, and he was a biker minister. Like,
my God,
he had a biker church, and he did not like me. He did not like me, or my zines, or my calling myself a reverend.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I am.
What about you're astounding at graphic design and websites and all that stuff? Can people go to levitro.com to
Oh
find out
yeah,
how to hire
sure.
you?
Sure. Yeah. If I sound like someone you might want to check their work out, please take a look. Levitro.com, Lovetro, your source for all things Levitro.
Right. And really quickly, tell me 2 or 3 things that people often hire you to do in that range of topics.
Sure, website design. Mostly do WordPress, full site editing development right now. Also promotional videos, product videos, photography, headshots, band shots, any of that sort of thing.
You do just about everything.
I
And
do
there's so many great
everything.
testimonies on there too.
Yeah. I've worked with some really great people in this area, and they've been very nice enough to talk about me and my work in a very positive manner.
All right. Well, Reverend Sam, this has been great to catch up with you. I would actually like to do this again fairly soon. Would you be willing to talk some more in the future?
Absolutely. I love talking to you, Mel.
All right, man. Great to catch up with you.
Cool. Talk to you soon.
You should be the one. Take in hand your torch and hammer. Use them well when the darkness comes. You should be the one. Travel to a sea of silence on tributaries vast and timeless come. You should be the one to bring the chaos down, for the best of what is found to come around. Time to turn from indecision, rally around the forward vision. Come, you should be the one. Marking time will always cheat you, ticking clocks that aim to beat you. Come, you should be the one to bring the chaos down, for the best of what is found to come around. The day is warm and bright. You can hide your eyes or turn your face towards light. When wolves are at the door, just let them in and fight for something more. Take in hand your torch and hammer. Use them well for when the darkness comes. You should be the one. Travel to a sea of silence, tributaries vast and timeless come. You should be the one to bring the chaos down, for the best of what is found to come around. Bringing the chaos down, for the best of what you found to come around. You should be the one. You should be the one.